apparently low on battery. So I asked you at the beginning questions about shame. I'm going to talk about embarrassment, which is shame light. Have any of you ever been embarrassed? Okay, good. So, 2 stories. Story number 1, 6th grade, okay? Me in 6th grade, so take off about 3 inches. You got the button. Maybe a few more. We were in our DARE program, so that's drug and alcohol resistance education. I had to remember that the first service. I couldn't remember it. We were in our DARE program, and for the conclusion of our DARE program, everyone in the grade was invited to write an essay, and the winning essays were then given the privilege and honor of reading their essays in front of the entire class, school assembly, and family and friends and parents who had been invited to come and witness it as well. Yay. What an honor. We also got Dare Lions for reading our essays, because I was the first year of the Dare Lion. There used to be a Dare Bear, which my brother got 2 years earlier, but now they had Dare Lions. So if you ever come over to my house, there's a lion sitting in front of my fireplace. That's my Dare Lion from this event. That's why I remember it. And so at the event, at the rally, we were reading our speeches, and so there was a podium, and Aaron Weston was in front of me in line. And for some reason, and I don't know why, because I would have never organized it this way, instead of having the 6 people who were giving their speeches sitting in the front row and one coming up at a time, we were all up at the podium together. And so Aaron was here, and I was standing roughly here, and the rest of the people were along beside me from there, and we were slowly rotating through like that. And so if you're up in front of the whole crowd, you know, you're standing over here, one person's reading, and then you scoot over, the next person's reading, you scoot. What do you have to do up here? Well, like, you run out of things to do, and me being a person who needs things to do, I know Karen Richter knows this, I'm a person who just can't sit still most of the time. I need things to do. And so we're up here, and I got nothing to do, and I find myself, Aaron's standing there, and he's beginning to read his speech, and it's sitting right there, and I can see it from where I'm at. And so I find myself just kind of reading along, and I'm reading along, and you know, apparently you can see that from a distance. And by the end of the speech, of course, I'm reading along, which means I'm also leaning forward just a little bit, and I'm reading along and following this whole speech as he gives it. It's just a great sight. And I think nothing of it until after the whole event's over, and my parents look at me and they say, "Did you seriously have to read along with his whole speech?" Embarrassment. I wouldn't have even known to have been embarrassed if they hadn't mentioned anything. Story 2, 2008. It's in the summer. I'm at CPE, Clinical Pastoral Education, working as a chaplain at a hospital, but it's an education unit, which means we come back and we talk about things with each other. And once in a while, we get together with a couple other groups. So this time, there's about 10 people in the room from a couple multiple groups of CP groups working together. And we were doing reenactments of things that happened in a pastoral situation while we were being chaplains to help us kind of talk through what happened in those moments and how they went, and to think about them and process them. And so for this particular reenactment, they needed someone who would play the part of the patient. And the patient being a person who was in a coma. And so I got up there and I got to have the role of the coma patient. Really easy role, yeah? I overact. Andrea, yes? I overact all the time, okay? And so I get and we don't have like a nice hospital bed because we're just in the room reenacting. And so I'm laying on, I forget, some makeshift something or other that I'm supposed to be laying on. And so my whole job is to sit there and do nothing, right? That's the role. Sit there and do nothing. I can do this, Caitlin. I can. I promise you. I really can. Except for the problem was I laid down and the thing whatever I was laying on wasn't quite balanced. And so in the process of me sitting there and doing nothing resulted in me slowly sliding out of the thing and falling on the floor. I'm a really good actor. What's the difference between these two stories today? This is what feels odd to me. I'm still embarrassed over the second story. The first story that happened in front of my friends and my family, I'm not embarrassed about anymore. The story that happened in front of people whose names and faces I can't remember at all, I remember thinking about, what I was going to talk about today, and that story came up in my head. I found myself just like bopping myself in the head, like, why did you do that, you weird person? So keep those stories in mind, and we're going to come back to them in a moment. So here's John the Baptist in the wilderness. And he's sent to prepare the way. Prepare the way for who? We can prepare the way for who? Jesus. Good. He's sent to prepare the way for Christ. And I think when we think about, how we're supposed to respond to John the Baptist, and we're going to hear this next week in the story, people think this way too. We think the way we're supposed to respond to John the Baptist is we're supposed to ask the question, so how do we prepare? What do we have to do? Okay, so, you got your house to clean, right? And you got the food to make, right? Well, now here we're at church, and I'm telling you, you also got to work on your heart. You got 2 weeks? 2 weeks and 2 days? 2 weeks and a day, because you have to be ready by Christmas Eve, right? You've got 2 weeks and a day to get your heart ready for Christmas, okay? All that other preparing, you got to do this one too. Add it to your list. Just feel more busy, okay? But the scripture doesn't say that John was sent to tell us what to do. It says John was sent to prepare the way. John was sent to do the preparing, and who's he preparing? You and me. John's the one who's going to prepare you and me. He's the one who was sent to make the rough places smooth. And that's the question we need to think about. How is God preparing us for Christmas? Not how do I have to add one more thing to my list, but what is God doing to prepare you and me for Christmas? Malachi says that God is going to scrub each of us with Fuller's soap. Does anyone know what Fuller's soap is? What is it?
It's sold by the Fuller's man.
What?
It's sold by the Fuller's brush man.
Okay. What's it for?
I don't remember everybody ever wore it.
Everything? How intense is Fuller's soap?
Very.
All right. Fuller's soap, so you said sold by the Fuller man, but Fuller's soap is particularly used to clean wool. So you imagine those grungy, grimy sheep that have been out in the mud their whole lives, and now we've shaved their wool off, and we have this clump of dirt and fur that we need to somehow get the dirt out of to have nice, clean wool. Fuller's soap was the most high industrial soap they had, okay? And it says, you are going to be cleaned by God with Fuller's soap. And it also says that God is refining you like a blacksmith prepares metal. God is refining you, burning all the bad stuff out, washing all of the dirt and grime out, burning every little bit of impurity out until all that is left is pure silver and gold. And do you know how, I'm told this, I'm not a blacksmith myself, but apparently, do you know how a blacksmith knows whether or not the gold, the metal that they're working with is fully pure, all the impurities are out? What? It turns white hot? When it cools, what happens? The easy way to tell whether or not you actually got everything out, if you can see your reflection purely in the metal. You've seen this in gold. When people hold up a gold bar and then they look and they know it's pure gold if they can really see their image in there. And in silver as well, good polished silver. What do you look for when you polish silver? You polish brass. You look to see if your reflection's there, don't you? When the metal is pure, it reflects like a mirror. God is purifying us, it says. Malachi says, God is purifying us and will keep working with us until God can see God's own reflection when God looks at you. God is going to keep working away, purifying and refining each of us until God sees his own reflection burning in you. It's what I tell at weddings. Jeremy and Jen told us a couple weeks ago, I don't know if they remember this, but one of the things I always say at every wedding or at premarital counseling, one of the two at some point, is part of your role is to be the image of Christ to each other, to be a reflection of God to the other person so that they have someone in their life that they see every single day who shows them God. And God says today, I'm going to purify each of you. I'm going to burn you with fire until all the impurities are out, and what is left is silver and gold. Isn't that beautiful? God doesn't think you're iron. God doesn't think you're steel or bronze or brass. He thinks that you guys are the most precious things in the world, comparable to how we value silver and gold. So those two stories I told, what's the difference between the two? Why am I not embarrassed about the one anymore, but I'm still embarrassed about the other? And I had to think about this. Why am I not embarrassed about the one that happened in front of all my friends and family? But the one that happened with people that I can't even name their names or see their faces anymore still embarrasses me. Why is that? And I think the reason is because after that happened in front of my friends and family, they continued to be my friends and my family. And they continue to show me love somehow, and they continue to remind me that they still love me, and they continue to show me their love, and they continue to love me, and they continue to love me, and they continue to love me, and eventually they burned out all that embarrassment. Their love burned out all that embarrassment until it just became a story. It's just a fun story to tell now. The weird time I was looking over someone's shoulder. Whatever. It's just a beautiful story now because the people in the story, the ones that I would have been, I was embarrassed to have them know this, have continued to love me. Now this other story, I've never seen them again in my life. Is that the only thing they remember about me is the idiot who fell out of the bed in the skit where all he had to do was play the part of a comatose patient? It wasn't hard, Tyler. You can do this. Is that the only thing they remember about me? I've never seen them again, so what is their feeling? Maybe they remember nothing about me, but if there's something they remember that. That's going to be the only thing. And I'm still embarrassed about it because there's never been a reminder that the people who I'm embarrassed in front of actually love me. Embarrassment is like shame light. I asked you guys about what you're ashamed of. I thought those stories maybe are too deep to go into, honestly, in some levels. But embarrassment is just like shame light. And the way we get rid of embarrassment is we continually remind the person who is embarrassed that you are still loved. And it's the same way with shame. the way that shame goes away, I can't make my own shame go away. No matter how hard I try, it somehow keeps clinging to me, because if I'm ashamed in front of someone. There's someone who that shame relates to. And the only way it goes away is the person who I'm ashamed in front of somehow shows me love. And it doesn't just take, it's not just one time. It can't be like, I'm ashamed, and you're like, oh, well, I still love you. Well, yeah, of course you still love me. But no, it's the scene. Have anyone seen the movie Good Will Hunting? This is my favorite scene, one of my favorite scenes. Good Will Hunting? Okay, so near the end of the movie, Robin Williams' character, the therapist, turns to Matt Damon's character, who's the guy who's got some shame in his life. And Robin Williams' character says to him, it's not your fault. Matt Damon's character says, yeah, I know. It's not my fault. Whatever. And no, it's not your fault. Of course it's not my fault. I know, it's not my fault. No, it's not your fault. Yeah. No, you're not hearing me. It's not your fault. What are you doing? What? It's not your fault. Don't, not you. You don't do this, not you. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. And he repeats it and repeats it until the other person finally hears him. And the other person finally breaks through all those layers and not just says, yeah, of course, but actually hears that. It breaks him down into tears, because he's never actually truly accepted it. And that's what God's love is doing. It's saying, yeah, I know you're ashamed. I love you. Well, yeah, I know you love me, God. No, I love you. Of course you love me, God. No, I love you. You can't. There's no way. No, I love you. No, I mean, for all that, no, I love you. And God keeps repeating it and keeps repeating it. And that's what the refiner's fire is. The refiner's fire is that continual reminder of love in every little thing and every big thing, from the sunrise to waking up in the morning and having food to eat, to being able to come here and be with people who love us, to receiving God's food at the table, a continual reminder that God loves us. And that reminder burns away our shame and our embarrassment and our guilt, until all that's left is the perfect mirror image of God shining off the most precious things in the world. That's how God is creating peace in our lives. Peace. Not that lovey-dovey peace that's like, we feel good, we're not arguing, but that deep peace that says, these are the people I am with who really embrace the real me and love it. That deep peace that says, these are the people in my lives with whom there is real joy. That deep peace that says, these are the people who, even though we have some problems, we are not fighting, we are not arguing, but we actually, truly love each other. That peace that we really long for at Christmas, don't we? That peace that we want to see in our family and our friends, that says, the people at the table I'm eating with right now, ones who love me more than anyone in the world.